Are we ready to go? So, welcome everybody. We're talking today about Klarna. And so, briefly about Klarna. Klarna is a fintech company. It was set up in 2005 by the Swedish entrepreneur Sebastian Stiemiakowski. And a little bit of history about Sebastian is that he built this company paying his dues as a young worker. He started at Burger King, and his job involved putting frozen meat onto a conveyor belt to be flamed on the grill and assembled the burgers essentially. And on the other side of the assembly line was Niklas Adalbert, and these two guys became friends and eventually co-founded the startup that would become Klarna. And the company is also founded by Victor Jakobsson. But so what is Klarna really? What are they trying to tackle? Well, over 70% of online shoppers abandon their carts in the US, and that's a huge amount of abandoned shopping retail that could be going through to the customers. And Klarna is trying to capture that sale by offering different kind of solution. Then also most online platforms require a lot of information, meaning that you need to file in your credit card numbers, your addresses, all of your contact personal information. And most shoppers just feel like they don't want to do that because they feel like that their information is going to be misused, and the data that they are providing for the companies are not safe. And so there's a lot of suspicion involved in that. Then the increased web traffic has an adverse relationship with online sales. But so what is really the solution that Klarna is looking at? Well, I mean, it's just to make the payment really seamless and easy for customers and for online retailers. Well, Klarna allows people who shop online in stores to try before you buy, basically. And most importantly, they want it to be smooth. And when paying with Klarna, you don't have to fill in your details. In some cases, very little. And Klarna recognizes the customer based on previous purchases. And shoppers then accepted for Klarna's pay later service. They have a 14 or 30 days, depending on the retailer, to pay for their online order. Well, this means that you could get a pile of clothes delivered, try them on, and return any if you don't like it. And you only pay for what you keep. And for cash-strapped millennials, this removes one of the biggest obstacles to online shopping. And there are no interest fees or late charges, and approval depends on a soft credit check. And this doesn't show on your credit report when other lenders run check, but this is just a customer's credit history, age, and other factors. So what happens if you don't pay? Well, Klarna is about the fact that non-payment will affect customers' credit score, and accounts are passed to debt collections agencies if unpaid after several months. And this is really a last resort solution. So how does Klarna make money if not from interest and surcharges? Well, the answer is merchant transaction fees from retailers. And Klarna reckons it can increase the average online store orders by 45% and also increase by 20% the purchase frequency. And the claim stands up when you speak to some of Klarna's customers who admit they have upped their spending. But Klarna also they have safeguards in place to ensure that the products are only offered to those who are able to afford it and who will make the repayments in a sustainable way without impacting their financial well-being. And none of the customers can make unlimited transactions because Klarna has thresholds in place to ensure that customers makes payment on their current purchases before they are able to make any further purchases. So this is just a method to prevent overspending and encourage responsible purchasing.
So thinking about the market for Klarna, That's the retail e-commerce, which represents $3.5 trillion in 2019. This market is expected to keep growing in the future, up to 4.9 trillion in 2021. However, in this market, there are some online giants such as Amazon, Alibaba, or eBay, and they already have their own payment system. So the addressable market for Klarna will more be like single brand retailer, which bring the number of 3.5 trillion down to 1.5. Still pretty big market, expected to grow. So yeah, because e-commerce represent 14% of the total retail commerce as today, and the part of e-commerce in the retail is expected to grow to up to 22% in 2021. Today, Klarna is very nicely implanted in Europe, as it is a European company. And it is growing in foreign countries like in the UK and in the US, because they have the highest per capita e-commerce consuming. So that's two good opportunities for Klarna, and they're investing a lot in these two new countries too. Also, Klarna is starting to go in the New Zealand and in the Australia market, as they think that's two good opportunities too. So Victor told you about how Klarna works, and so how we make money on that, how Klarna make money on that is that they're charging retailers instead of consumers with so there is a fixed fee of 30 cents by transaction, and then depending on the method, so there is three methods: the pay now, the pay later, and the slice it. So if the consumer is going to pay when he's ordering, there is no fee for the retailers. If the consumer want to slice the payment, the retailer is going to have to pay 3.29% of the transaction. And if the consumer wants to pay later, it's going to be a 5.99% fee. So what is this doing is that, like as Victor said, it is erasing friction for both consumer and retailers, because retailers are going to receive their money right when the consumer is ordering, and the consumer, for them, it's pretty safe and easy to pay by doing that. So the pay later is very like the best service offered by Klarna, as it increases sales. Thinking about the competition, so as I told you, in Europe, Klarna is very nicely implanted. So they have a large market share on online payments. And we can think of good competitors like Affirm, Square, and PayPal. So PayPal is the big competitor of Klarna, but more in the US, as well as Affirm. They're more implanted in the US. Square is more like is less an online payment solution. It's more for a store payment solution. And we believe that there is a lot of barriers to entry this market. So the first one is the regulation. You need to have a bank license. It necessitates a lot of capital to be in this market, as for credit facilities and everything. And also nowadays Klarna, they have a lot of a good network with a lot of consumers, as well as a lot of retailers, and we believe that is a pretty hard barrier to go over. So finally the competitive advantage of Klarna will be that Klarna is not only doing credit facilities or online payment system. They're doing several different services for retailers. That's the main difference between them and their competitors.
Over to marketing. Our marketing and branding strategy are key to create a competitive differentiation in a crowded marketplace. We listed some of the key points to the communication. And first of all, for brand building, our retailers are using Klarna as a marketing tool, which serves a similar function to promotion, where a customer is securing a purchase that otherwise might have been out of reach, for example, with a pay later solution. Moreover, it's a smooth and easy way, as Victor and Alex pointed out. It's one click and you can wear it and you don't have to put down the full payment at once. The risk is on us, so the retailers will get the money right away, and the customer will have an easy way to pay. We use a clean, simple, and modern design. Original. Oh yeah, networking is also a big deal. We love being mentioned in online ads, TV commercials, social medias, and from one of our researches, a personal recommendation or like a word of mouth is a big factor. Therefore, we're focusing on an enjoyable in-store experience across channels and a good experience for the return process. This way, we're hoping people will talk about Klarna and recommend Klarna to their friends and moreover. Furthermore, yeah, how to send this message. We have signed a contract with Snoop Dogg. He became one of our minor shareholders and also the face of a big campaign called Get Smooth. That's the name of, like you see at the picture right there. It's Smooth Dog instead of Snoop Dogg. That's one way we have tried to get the word out. Also, we use a simple and modern design again in our logos and on our website. And lastly, we have a strong consumer service. Moving over to the goal, we want to acquire customers, but we have experienced the rising costs in advertising to attract these customers. So it doesn't come at a low cost, unfortunately. But moving over to the management slide, because we have a great team, so Klarna can continue to grow and build their brand globally and in a way that enables them to scale and move at a fast pace. These people here are the most responsible one, in control for Klarna. The board is the highest decision-making body in Klarna structure, and for management and control, you can see John Kamaluddin in the top right corner. He is one of the 6 members in the board. He's the chairman. Below John, you can see Sebastian Siemiatkowski. He's also sitting in the board. He's also the CEO in Klarna. And the board consists of they're both powerful and also invested in all the activities happening in the business. The people there have a lot of experience within banking, insurance, technologies, a lot of diversification. So we found a good balance of experienced people with different knowledge to develop and form our business. Then we have the C team. Our company is again led by Sebastian Siemiatkowski, one of the co-founders of Klarna. And the C team are meeting weekly meetings and work on day-to-day operations. Under the C team again, we have the management committees, where we have listed the different committees like executive and credit and fraud committee, capital and liquidity committee, business continuity management committee, etc.
Okay, now we'll quickly take a look on the financial side. So Klarna has been growing revenue at a pretty steady 32% compounded annually. We've seen drastic increases in GA and expenses in the last 2 years, especially 2019. But these were mostly to fuel growth in the new markets, mainly UK and US. But in overall, expenses have been pretty much within management projections. And moving forward, we expect revenue to grow at around 35 in 2020 and to gradually normalize closer to the industry growth over the next few years as the operations in the US and UK mature. In addition, we expect earnings to take a hit in 2020 as GA and S expenses remain high and as credit defaults increase due to the current situation. Klarna actually reported Q1 credit losses over 100% higher than in 2019. And then moving further, we expect earnings to rise again as the expansions mature and are expecting Klarna to turn a profit in 2022 again. For valuation, Klarna was valued at 5.5 post-money in the last round in 2019. We expect, however, the IPO valuation to be slightly higher, at around 7.5 billion, based on public comparables and the boost that the current situation has had on their growth. Next slide, please. To take a closer look on how the crisis is affecting Klarna, we can look at our Q1 results. Most importantly, growth has been phenomenal at 32% compared to Q1 2019. The Klarna app has seen pretty massive increase of 70% in users, and the Klarna card has had a 400% increase in transactions when compared to Q1 in 2019. Klarna's retail space has grown significantly with the addition of 15,000 new merchants to their global repertoire of over 200,000 merchants. And in the transaction side, Klarna acquired an Italian buy now, pay later company that's called Moneymore. Oh, Alex, you want to go back? Called Moneymore, which is an Italian buy now, pay later company. This was mainly to increase presence in Southern Europe. And in addition, they formed a partnership with an investment with Commonwealth Bank of Australia, which also invested into Klarna in their last round. And together they've launched Klarna's services in Australia and New Zealand. So in overall, the current crisis has been benefiting Klarna's operations, as we've seen increasing traffic in online retail space, and we've seen a massive influx of retailers updating their online shopping platforms to capture the increased traffic and to maintain parts of their cash flow. On the other hand, though, the impact this situation has had on household finances has increased credit default risk quite significantly, which is why Klarna has increased their allowance with 10 million USD, which is a move made by most commercial banks. And so now we'll briefly go through the IPO investment details. And to kind of start off, we'd like to address that Klarna is not in any dire need of capital. They have a pretty strong balance sheet with enough liquidity to easily meet their cash burn. And in addition, as a bank license holder, they have pretty frictionless access to the debt markets. For the IPO event itself, the capital raised would be used to increase growth in the US and to capture market share and enter new markets in the Oceania region, mainly Australia and New Zealand, and then maybe entering into Indonesia. For the IPO date, Klarna hasn't announced anything yet and is waiting for the market turmoil or the markets to stabilize, as entering at such a volatile entering such a volatile market doesn't really provide solid grounding for a new offering. So at the moment, Klarna is only searching for interest for said offering in the institutional investor space. And thank you. Any questions?
So guys, this is the opportunity for the rest of the class to ask questions, and remember that I'm gauging participation, so it might be a good idea.
I have a quick question. So you compared a lot of those numbers a few slides over to the Core 1 reports from 2019. Do you have that data that you can kind of give us some more background information on?
Yeah, what kind of background information do you want?
They're just like really impressive percentage increases, so I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so okay, so for the Klarna card increase, that's in transactions, and you have to remember it was launched not that far off. I think it was 2018, and they launched it, and it's still only available in the DAC region, which is Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and what's the last one? I can't remember, but it's like upper middle Europe, and then I think it's also available in Sweden. So even though we've seen a drastic increase, you got to remember that in 2019 it was still at a pretty low level. Then for the app increase, which was around 70% of users. For that, it's kind of the same thing. It hasn't been that long since it was launched, so we can still see like a lot of increases due to the small amount of users in the previous years. But it's definitely, both of these products are definitely gaining a lot of traction in their respective regions.
Yeah, and to add a little bit to Nicholas' comments is that only last year there were 16 million new consumers globally, and including 6 million annually from the US alone. So the traction is coming from a lot of new customer usage for the firm, and as well in the US, the Klarna shopping app, it was trending as #1 for a while, like in Google Play store, and the US transaction, they're rapidly increasing all the time.
Awesome, thank you.
Henry, go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, kind of what you were saying, Victor. Are there any, like, is Klarna partnering with anyone that they can, or are they trying to target like a specific type of company? What's going on there?
Well, so I mean, they're not specific type of companies that they're targeting, but so for instance, some of new merchants include River Island, Boohoo, Made.com, Michael Kors, Expedia, Microsoft, Tom's. So I mean, it's a really big range, because I mean, essentially it doesn't really matter for the company what kind of retailer you are or a merchant. So it's really the same. The only thing that they obviously want to be sure of, that it's a legit company that obviously has some revenue and have some customers that they can rely on. But nonetheless, there's really no specific type of e-commerce that they're interested in.
Yeah. Kind of to add to that, it's the companies they deal with. It's like Victor said, all over the board, but mostly they've been targeting single brand and kind of smaller e-commerce companies that don't have such a big presence, because when you look at Amazon or Apple, they have their own pretty solid payment platforms that just don't, like, Klarna couldn't add any real value to that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of merchants joining, so there's a merchant is joining every 8 minutes into Klarna's software usage. So it's growing by every 8 minutes. So I mean, at the end of the day, it can, I mean, it can grow on that pace for some time, but obviously it will, at some point it will decrease a little bit.
So Jens, looks like you raised your hand.
Yes, I did. I have a few questions. First of all, thank you for a good presentation. It was really easy to follow, and you've done a great analysis on this, I think. So my first question is, what kind of additional credit products are Klarna in a good position to offer? And by the way, I don't know the answer. I'm just curious if they're thinking about, you know, credit for small and medium-sized businesses and that kind of stuff.
So they already have small credit lines for consumers, but I don't think they offer anything in the retail space. But that would definitely be a possible move that they can make. But I don't know how much buffer do they actually have on that side to offer larger loans.
If I can add to
but
that.
Klarna, they're actually moving into they're looking into a B2B consumption, meaning that they will also transfer a little bit away from the business to consumer. And that there's still not really a lot of data or anything announced from that, so it was quite hard to find any additional information. But the fact is that they're looking into it and possibly coming up with some solutions for business to business later on.
Yeah, that's what I read too about financing. They will provide like an opportunity to record and have your finance through Klarna.
That should be very interesting. So they can do like inventory financing and maybe get into a Flexport space a little bit that we're going to hear about later. Another question I had was, did you guys, you have one of these bubbles here where you're saying that they launched in Australia and New Zealand. Is there any significant barriers to grow in other countries in terms of, you know, banking regulations and that kind of stuff?
Victor, do you want to take this? Or?
Yeah. I mean, it's so Sebastian Siemiatowski, he's been repeatedly saying, because everybody asked that, okay, so let's go to China, let's do Asia, but that's something that it's seemingly not interesting for Klarna at the moment, because the presence of Alibaba is so huge there that they really don't see a large value of fueling the growth and the capital that would be needed to move to those areas. So in terms of going into Asia, the barriers would be the capital intensity and the amount of capital they would need to do so. However, so for instance, in Australia and New Zealand, what they have done in cooperation with the Commonwealth Bank is that they sort of have a 50-50 deal, meaning that Commonwealth Bank is helping Klarna to launch there. And they're splitting obviously the wins and losses, but the barrier there, if I understood correctly, was that they need to have such a large presence in that new geographical area that it would have been too big of a task for them to launch it by their own. And when they did that, obviously Commonwealth Bank became a small owner in the company, but there's definitely some barriers to entry for Klarna going into new markets.
Yeah,
and also
also
like we could see in the financial report is that they're fueling so much growth already now in the US that they're doing a negative because of that. So initially I will like to see Klarna move into Asia and into other markets, but the time for that won't be right now.
Kind of an interesting piece of information for moving into Asia or or China, is that on their last funding round, I don't think it was led by, but one of the larger investors was Ant Financial, which is a fintech company or fintech payment solutions company that's owned by Alibaba. So we'll see what that provides. Might be an interesting or Klarna might be an interesting acquisition target for them.
So as I listen to you guys describe this company, I recognize that clearly it's an online marketplace, a digital marketplace, but I think yet more clearly it's a bank. It's a non-bank bank.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And it's just using the marketplace as its list of transactions and where it's getting transactions from. That's
Yeah.
Yep.
Reducing friction, Rick.
That's exactly right, brother.
Mm.
Hey, so nicely done, guys. Any other questions or comments from the rest of the students? Well, very good.
I have a short one, Rick.
Please.
Can you guys please specify when you're saying capturing US growth? Do you then mean that you're trying to sign up single brand retailers as fast as they can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're mainly talking about growing their merchant base in the US.
Mm. And do you guys think that they have an edge on marketing as you get more and more of these single brand e-commerce players? You always have the little Klarna logo there at checkout, just like you would have PayPal and everything else. So you don't have, perhaps you don't have to buy that many ads and stuff to get people to actually use it.
Yeah, I think they definitely do, or are benefiting from that, but I think they're not at a point where organic growth would take them, would be enough for them to grab a really significant market share in the US.
Okay, yeah. That should be interesting. Well done, guys.